Yo, what's going on people, and welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing good. So this week we're going to be doing a part 2 of the Kingsway vintage samples. I'm going to show you how I did like a breakdown with drums. Using a breakdown like this can make your samples stand out and be a very unique compared to other samples. So if you like the sound of this, and as usual, follow my Instagram that's going to be on the screen, and let's get into the video. So the first thing I did was jazzy type of keyscape chords for keys. It sounds like this. So the first chord is an A major 7th, a minor triad, then a F sharp minor 7th, and I think it just changes out throughout that, and I just drop some notes in just to give it that like distinguished jazzy sound. Then for the piano I just added this valve compressor. I didn't want it to have a lot of flutter and wow, so I just brought that down. I used the same plexi tape as usual. It just gives it a little bit more brightness and makes it stand out. Then a room reverb that I always like to put on pianos. Then I use this J37 metallic drum loop, but I just brought the mix down in it. Next thing I used was just this Synth Pluck that sounds like this. And them chords are just made to build tension and bring it back in. Put a flanger and a flanges on just to make it very, very modulated and give that weird, funky sound. Then I used a delay. I wanted it quite a lot. Next, just to fit into that sound that I'm having, like warped, dry vintage, just this accent that sounds like this. And that's nothing too crazy. I just put this primal tap on it just to give it that warpiness again, just to fit into the style. Another delay from the same one from the first. Then I used this old tape delay, but I brought down the left and right because I didn't want it too much of a delay. And then I just wanted to make it very wide, so I made a S1 imager, and just to make it more like a pad. Then I routed that onto a send track and then just put it as like portal and just give it like nice glitchy effect that you can't really hear, but that just creates new textures. Next thing I added was like this plucky sort of synth keys that sounds like this. And I use that just to make rhythm and just be very atmospheric, just to create a nice atmosphere in the background, just to give it like a nice bit of warmth. And then I use the chorus on it just to give it a nice airiness. And use this mid side just to make it a little bit more wider. Then this low high just to filter out the high frequencies because I wanted it to be very minimal. Then I obviously just EQ'd out as usual. Next thing I added was the bass. I used the bass just to drive the whole sample, give it that nice funky rhythm and just nice bounce. I feel like when you use a nice rhythm with a bass, it makes it easier to just add percussion and just like cool textures. And I just filtered out quite a lot of the lows, and then just I wanted to boost the highs to make it a little bit more present. But I did this guitar next, but this was just a little bit of like an accent and just to give it a little bit different taste. So next I use a reels to give it that core vintage sound, and I use this wah wah effect just to give it that nice bounce. A little bit of a reverb because I wanted it to have a little bit more airiness. Then I just use this basic ping pong delay just to make it spread out a little bit more, and just last longer and fill in the gap. The next I added another pad just to give it a little bit more of a texture. Sounds like this. Then at the end of the 8th bar, just added like a nice flute just to give it more of like a bounce and rhythm. And just added the flanges on that, and just a room reverb quite light because I wanted it to be a little bit more dry, so it sounds a bit natural. Then I added this like pluck mellotron sound that sounds like this. And I use that just to nicely go with the keys and just gives it that extra flavour. So I just use the default sketch cassette and just a bit of reverb as usual. And again, another flanger just to give it that modulated depth, and then a pan man because I wanted it to go left to right because there's quite a lot of delay, so I wanted it to spread out in the sample. So I wanted to make it like a little breakdown from the pianos where the piano cuts out and then the other instruments have a chance to like shine through. So I made this breakdown. So this is how I made it. I used a bong, a tom, a congo, a noise, and some fill that sounds like this dry. And all that was just like with jazzy sort of music, you can have like percussion in the background. They use it as like to build tension, just to bounce off and just relay back into the mix. Then I added this Nami loop. Then this reversed open hat, and then like this crash, then I added like this rim shot type of sound that all sounds like this. And then obviously here you can just see I just added a vinyl just to give it extra flavour and texture. So I threw all the drums into one channel and I just wanted to squash them all. I lowered the mix. So first I wanted to phaser it just to give it a little bit more of an unnatural taste. Didn't want it to sound too basic. And I compressed all the drums just to make them very more tighter and just sound more realistic. A reels obviously I turned down the flutter, but I just wanted to give it a little bit more noise and just that grittiness. And I used this JJP like mix drum, and I just turned the attitude up and punch, tone a little bit down, and just took out some lows. This I feel just gives it a little bit more character and saturation. Another flanger on that. Then I just wanted to take out everything that I've put on. Didn't want it to just be too high in the frequency range, so I just took out the low and the high. Then a reverb just to give it that nice room effect. And then throughout the sample you can see I've just cut stuff out. So here took out the guitar, took out the wah, and just cut the drums a little bit just to give it a little more flavour and just allow other elements of each sample to just shine through. And then I got the whole sample and just put it down by 3 semitones, and this is how it sounds. Yeah, that sounds really good. I just like how the piano comes out, then the drums just drive it back into the piano. Just gives a nice little opener for it to come back in. The key element to these sort of samples is just knowing where each place has its little moments to just shine through, just to give a little bit more of a listen and just make it more exciting as the sample goes on. So if you like this video, you know what to do. Subscribe down below, follow my Instagram that's going to be on the screen. Sample pack is in the works. Going to take a little bit more time with this one. Yeah, and leave a comment if you want to see other stuff. Just let me know what you want to see. And that's that for this video, so I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, people.